Hello, everybody. It's the August catch-up of the Australian Computer. What is our Facebook page called? Great start. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. We've just got a couple of new faces here today. Before we start, I need to point out that we are recording, so this will be shared on the Facebook page under the media section of our page. Right, so first I'd like to welcome John. Welcome, John. Would you like to just tell us something about yourself?
Hey there, guys. So you might have seen me kicking around the Facebook page just a little bit. I've had a couple of posts up there in the last couple of weeks and couple of months now. I've been sort of relatively new to anything too vintage. I suppose a lot of it I consider, my childhood is kind of coming to terms with the fact that that's now approaching 20 years old. So I'm only 27 myself. I was born in the 90s. So I kind of missed out on a lot of the sort of, some would consider the golden age of personal computing. So a lot of the stuff I'm just getting into now is sort of catching up on stuff that I missed, either just because I was too young to get into it at the time, or just didn't have the money, etc. So I've just started off with a few things like this. I've got just getting into Voodoo. I completely missed 3DFX. By the time I was into gaming, it was just down to AMD and NVIDIA. So really enjoying getting into some of that gear that I missed. And I have just started on my 8-bit journey with my first Commodore 64. So just rolled that in. Got myself an Epix fast loader, some good old tape games, and I was going to play with that this weekend, and then I realized I didn't have the right AV cable. So that one's getting pushed back until a week or two, I think.
Cool. So just starting your 8-bit journey, and you're basically a, what would you say, 486 Pentium is your retro? Is that what you would say?
So that's sort of like the before I started playing with things. Pentium 3, even into Pentium 4, which I know is getting obviously that's a little bit new, but that's sort of where I've been playing with mostly. But I'm just starting now to get into the older stuff where I just wasn't around for.
Okay, cool.
Back into a world of jumpers and BIOSes without configuration menus, and it's all good fun. Yeah, oh, and my other project, of course, I've got a 5150 that I'm restoring. So
beautiful.
Having a bit of fun with that one.
Cool. Great.
John, wait till you get down that dark hole, which is the ultimate 64. You'll never get out.
I've already accepted that I'm not going to have all the bells and whistles. As much as I would love a pet, it's also occurred to me that I already know little enough at this stage that it wouldn't be any use to me. I simply wouldn't know what to do with it, given how limited that system can be, especially if you don't know what you're doing with it.
It's limited even if you do know what to do with it.
That's part of the fun.
Absolutely. Now I would like to introduce Stephen. So Stephen, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you guys. Lifelong retro computer collector here. Have some of that to blame on Ian. I've been buying stuff from Ian since before he was on eBay, and haven't really stopped this whole time, but mainly focused around Commodore. I haven't got quite the pet collection that Dave's got going there, but Commodore is one of the focuses, but also IBM, Amstrad, a few other things as well. And yeah, just trying to enjoy it, and found this group on Facebook, and seemed like a good bunch of guys. So I thought, why not join in and join in the fun?
Cool, great. Yeah, welcome. So do you have many machines yourself?
Yeah, over the years I've accumulated a fair bit. As I say, mainly around the Commodore line. Got the PET 2001 that I think I saw on Dave's shelf, and managed to pick up a Kim one recently. And
nice. Got
yeah,
one of those too.
Yeah, that's good to grab one of those, because I think getting harder and harder to come across. And yeah, some other rare and funny stuff I picked over the years, a Commodore B128. But yeah, and all different variants of the 64, you know, the LD and the 64G and the 64GS. And yeah, I've got an SX64, and yeah, so trying to sort of round it out a little bit.
Is your B128 a B128 or a C610?
That's a good question. I haven't pulled it out of the cupboard for many, many years. I've had
Did
that.
you get it from North America or from?
No, I got it from Europe. Yeah.
So it could be a C610, which is it's the same as a B128, but just got a different nomenclature. I don't know.
Wasn't the 710 similar as well? Or?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But the 710 is normally an integrated machine with a screen.
Okay.
Where the 610 is just a base unit that looks like the thing that attaches to the screen. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Because I've got a 610, not a B128, but they're the same thing.
Yeah, I seem to remember, it was probably 15, 20 years ago I got that, and I seem to remember it was advertised as a B128, and I got it and came across from Europe and stashed it, and haven't looked at it since, so might be an opportunity to pull it out.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, just change that, pull out that filter cap that's under the power supply, otherwise you're going to have a real smoky time.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, nice to meet you. Now, another first timer I think has just appeared. James, would you be interested in saying something about yourself, your history, and yeah, what you're doing?
Yeah, sure thing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Cool. So my name's James. I live in Adelaide at the moment, and I was a very keen retro computer collector in sort of the late 90s, and then kids and life got in the way, and it's something that I've just kind of reconnected with in probably the last 2 years, and I've only recently in the last couple of months discovered that there's actually enough people with similar interests to actually form little communities. So there is an Adelaide retro computing group that meets every month. I went along for the first time last month and met some of the cool folks down there. And yeah, so connecting with some of these Facebook groups and things as well to, you know, just share ideas and projects, which is really, really exciting and a lot of fun. What do I actually have? The thing that really got me back into the love of retro computing was I was just looking for a server part actually, and I was keeping an eye on some of the local auction sites where they come up, and an SGI Octane came up on on an auction. I'm like, oh man, those things were worth a fortune in the 90s. I like used to see them in catalogs and, you know, just drool over them as a, you know, high schooler. And, you know, back when I was collecting computer things seriously, that was way, way, way out of my price range. So anyway, a couple $100 later, and I was the proud owner of an SGI Octane. And so that's been a source of much enjoyment over the last probably 18 months I've had it now. So, you know, found some compatible SCSI drives and managed to get IRIX installed over a network because I didn't have a ultra wide SCSI external CD drive, all that kind of stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. That's up and running, and I showed it off in Adelaide at the Retro Computing Group last month. And my current project is a Sun Spark Ultra Spark 3, I think it is. So it's about 2003. So it's not super old, but I'm really interested in unique hardware platforms as well. So you know, the RISC architectures were really big through the 90s and then kind of fizzled out in the early 2000s. So I'm sort of, if I see a machine that's got, you know, like this one's an Ultra Spark, which, you know, was a pretty cool architecture in its day, and then died out only like a couple of generations after this one. So it was kind of towards the end of the Ultra Spark era. I actually own a Spark Station 2 from the very early 90s. That's in storage in Canberra. In fact, a lot of my really old stuff is boxed up in my mum's basement. So I do plan to get it out sometime in the near future when time and space allow. But yeah, there's a Spark Station 2. I've got I think last chap mentioned a Commodore SX64. I've got one of those, the executive portable model. They're very pretty. I've got an Amiga 1500 and an Amstrad PC 1640 and a bunch of 086 and 286 era stuff. Yeah, so that's all been great fun. That was what I used to do as a teenager in the school holidays. I'd you know, pull things out of dumpsters or find them at garage sales, and you know, spend a week just trying to get the thing to spit out something basic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Lovely to meet you all.
You're in good company here. It was an interesting time when all those different processes were out. When you've got I'm trying to think of the name of the processors, but you had the MIPS one, you had the Alpha, you had obviously the x86, you had all these different platforms. And I can remember when Windows NT 3.51 came out and had all these different processors that were supported. I'm like, I don't know what those things are, but it really sparked my curiosity. You're thinking, what are we missing out on? Turned out not very much. But
well, they were fantastically good at really specific things. So I think that the MIPS, which is what's in the SGI machines, SGI bought MIPS in the early 90s and was very, very committed to that platform. They were very, very good at floating point arithmetic. I think they performed about what a Pentium 2 at twice the clock speed would in terms of floating point. They really did churn through floating point. Integer stuff, not so much, and not very good for gaming and things like that. But if you had a whole lot of floating point calculations to do, they were great. I think the IBM. So IBM made a PowerPC, which was in the Macs of the day. The Macs used actually the lower tier ones, if I recall correctly. And there was like the IBM, I can't even think of what they were called, but the really high end IBM RISC chips. Was it the Alpha chips?
No, they were
just Power.
They did Power as well.
RS 6000.
Power, yeah. They were really tremendous machines in their day. Like they couldn't compete with SGI in the graphics, but in terms of floating points calculations, they were just phenomenal, those workstations.
Yeah, I just remember installing, I think I got a DEC Alpha workstation, and you could install VMS or Windows NT. I installed Windows NT on it, and I discovered that you couldn't install any x86 software on there. So I didn't have any compiled Alpha software. So I was like, well, if I want to use calendar or clock, perfect. But yeah, I quickly got bored and moved on. The end. Yeah, so yeah, I didn't notice any difference but it was really interesting though. It was interesting that Microsoft supported all that. And then I think after NT4, they just dropped it all. Which was a bit depressing. But
yeah, I think NT4, it had a few CPU architectures, but XP and onwards, nothing. Even Windows 2000 onwards.
Yeah, I think Windows 2000, they dropped it all, yeah. All right, so, well, welcome. So now we're just going to go around and find out what everyone's been doing for the last month. And I'm going to call on you, Dave, because I can't tell if everybody else is the same, but Dave is to the left of me. Is everyone else got Dave to the left of me?
No,
or has everyone got different screens?
I'm left of you. Dave's right of me.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Well, we all go into different spots every time.
Yeah, we must go into different spots. Well, Dave's on my left, so Dave, you're up.
All right. Howdy, everyone. It's been a pretty quiet month for me, but I had a new toy come along, which is this is it here. It's a 3D printed keyboard enclosure for a PET SK. which are the real curvy sort of, they call them the Porsche Pet. I don't know if has anyone seen those? No, hang on. I'll just,
It's a very 2001 Space Odyssey one.
Like, there it is there.
They were usually under CBM brand, weren't they?
That's correct, as opposed to the more normal picnic there. But because the keyboards are actually on a cable,
you always get the machines. You don't get the keyboard like the Commodore 128Ds and all that sort of stuff. Or the SX64s. Getting the machines is pretty easy, but getting the keyboard is a hell of a lot more difficult. So some Pine Sol on Thingiverse actually designed a keyboard enclosure, and I just had to find someone that had a 500mm print bed to actually print it up, which was surprisingly difficult. But got that done, so I'm looking forward to putting that together. And well, that's right. The original VIC-20 that they released in Japan, the VIC-1001, I'm getting one of those delivered tomorrow night, which I'm really happy about because that'll round out my collection of VIC-20s. So, so aside from that, I've been pretty quiet.
Cool, great. As a curiosity question, because I have no experience with 3D printing, is that case feel brittle at all, or does it just feel like a nice solid piece of plastic?
Well, the specifications I sent it to be printed for was with 50% infill, so you could actually dictate how much rigidity you want in it. So I do a lot of 3D printing here, and usually I'm running at about, just for like little cases for like a Commodore 64 cartridge case like this, I'll usually run at about 20%. So that way you're not wasting material, and it's sort of nice and flexible. But something like a keyboard, which is going to have a bit of force applied to it and being something quite wide, I specified the guy to do 50% infill, which cost more material, and the print time was 150 hours. But it's pretty damn solid, which was the idea.
What's the material that you went for?
I wanted to do PETG, but talking to the guy and just, again, finding someone with a 500mm print bed's actually surprisingly difficult. I've got 3 printers here, and they've all got 200 to 250mm print beds, but 500mm doesn't sound like much bigger, but it is surprisingly a lot bigger. He said, look, PETG will be a better material, but PLA, given the size of the print, is going to have less chance of lifting. So you're going to get a better end result, as long as it's not going to be exposed to too much moisture and all that sort of stuff, because PLA can be a little bit prone to moisture damage. But, short of me spilling a bottle of beer on it or something like that, I think it should be okay.
Cool, great. Henry, what are you up to?
Not that much actually. I've actually been focusing on one project. So about 6 weeks ago, I picked up an Amiga 600. And in fact, I've been steering clear of the Amigas for whatever reason, because I'd always wanted to sort of concentrate on the 8-bit machines to collect. But anyway, I had an A500 as a kid, and it came up for the right price. So I went and picked it up, and people like Tom Walker, who's not on the call tonight, says, "Oh, I can burn you. I can make up a CF card for you, Henry, so you don't have to worry about setting up Workbench and whatnot." And I said, no, want to do it myself. Want to, get iGame working and WHD load, etc. And my God, what a ordeal that is when you start to learn the independencies of Amiga libraries and versions and Workbench and Kickstart and everything like that. So anyway, finally got that all up and running, and so now I've caught the addicted bug. So I've got a Amiga 1200 on its way, a new case from RetroKit. I'm also probably buying a Terrible Fire. I think it's a 1260 or 1360 or something. It's coming up. So in for a penny, in for a pound. But so I've got it all up and running now. And then once I learnt it, first thing I did was actually install Classic Workbench and took like 10 minutes, which basically overrode the last 6 weeks of learning. But at least I know how to troubleshoot if it ever comes through. So that's all I've really been working on at this point. I did pick up something. It's not actually for it's not really for computers, but anyone that's actually played with the Neo Geos, the AES, etc. So I've got a Neo Geo CD, and I forgot I put my name down for a Neo Geo SD loader, and that arrived a couple of weeks ago. So, and for people like Dave who knows that I can't solder for the life of me, just waiting to get someone actually organised to actually hook that up for me, so I don't have to worry about burning CD-ROMs to play with my Neo Geo. But that's all for me. And then next thing, I'll give you an update on my A1200 when I get that up and running as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's going to cost a penny. The accelerator and the CPU is probably going to cost double what the A1200 is going to cost me anyway. So it's a for those that probably have the Amigas, they're all probably sitting there going, "Yeah, we know, Henry, we know." So yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that's up for me.
Henry? Have you done a recap on the A600?
Yeah, the A600 is all done. It's all shiny, all shiny red red caps too. So I actually picked it up from, I can't think of his last name. People here might know him. Marvin Drugsma. Yeah, so picked it up from Marvin. So he recaps everything. It's either Marvin or a guy called Steve, and I've forgotten Steve's last name, from the United Kingdom too. So funny enough, because the Amigas are so expensive in Australia, I get all my Amiga and Commodore stuff actually from Europe or the or United Kingdom. Yeah, but yes, but the short answer, yes, it's been recapped. Yeah.
Greg, what have you been up to since you?
Let's see. Went down just recently the PyStorm path for my Amiga 500. Thought I'd delve into PyStorm, and yeah, look, I'm pretty impressed, to be honest. For just under $100, Raspberry Pi and the PyStorm. Currently running Kickstart 3.1.4 on there with 2 hard drives, WHC loads all set up and running. Hooked up to a original Commodore, I think it's a 1084S monitor and that, and yeah, getting along nicely there. And a friend and I rescued another Amiga 500, ex-Colac Primary School, out of a skip bin somewhere I won't name, and in the process of starting to do a restoration on that one. And it all seems to work, except if you plug an external disk drive in, nothing will boot. You get the Kickstart screen, but it won't detect disks or anything. So bit of troubleshooting, and the space bar is not working at the moment. So pull the keys off and strip it down, and yeah. So yeah, pretty much the heart transplant of the A500 and the restoration sort of, been what I've been working on recently.
Great. It sounds like a good project.
Yeah.
Mav, what have you been up to?
Hey guys. Lockdown. in between lockdowns, I went and picked up a consignment of completely uninteresting stuff. Turned out to be not even bread and butter for me, but anyway, it's not even worth mentioning. A few Pentium 3s and 4s and AMDs and just random crapola, fun stuff. So I've got a lead on a few other things, so I was going to do them. I was going to go and pick those up in August this month, but if I get to it this month, I'll be surprised. Again, with the continual overhang of lockdowns in Melbourne, it's difficult to design these get-togethers that I like to do with any consistency. I mean, Alan, who runs the Computer Swap Meet, contacts me regularly and says, do you want to? And I was kind of like, yes, I want to, but you always, due to the nature of lockdown, tell me with such short notice that trying to get, more than 3 or 4 people together to the thing is, it's a tall order. So we're kind of in a, like I came into 2021 hoping it was going to be a lot better than last year, but it's pretty much a repeat of the same thing. So it's So yeah, but yeah, keeping busy, building a lot of stuff. I had an order for a hard drive emulator for a Model 2 come in over the weekend. I've been building it here, but then I realised that there it is. There, it's nearly finished. I haven't built one for a year. I've forgotten how to build it, and I can't find half the parts that well, if any of you have been to my place, you'd know it's it's all that and less. So I've got to find some terminating resistor networks. I think I'm gonna just order some. They'll get here quicker than it is to turn this place upside down and find them. So that's sort of the things I've been working on. Today I fixed of all things, a Philips 10-inch color television set, which doesn't sound particularly interesting, but connected to a Coco 3 or a 64, it does do a reasonable picture. And some people are after those things because they have a nice carry handle and they're not particularly heavy, and they're easy to store because they're like a blocky shape type thing. It's called a Philips Natural Color 24, which is basically just a portable AC or battery television set, 24 being the 24 centimeter diagonal for the CRT. Not a bad little TV. So still hate working on TVs, but at least that one cooperated and allowed me to fix it. So that's a good thing. I've been slowly selling IBM 5154 monitors. I think I've got 2 left. I've fixed them all.
Right.
Yeah, I had to import some triplers. If anyone knows anything about CRT technology, those monitors use an older design for the flyback called a tripler. So most CRTs that people are familiar with have a flyback mounted to the circuit board and the anode up to the CRT, and it runs at somewhere around 25,000 volts. On 60s and 70s TVs, and for some reason mid 80s IBM monitors like the 5154, they have a low voltage flyback of about 8,000 volts, and then that hooks up to a green little amplifier, I suppose you'd call it, called a tripler, which brings it up to the 25,000 volts that is required for a good, clean, stable picture. And for some reason, or for a lot of reasons, the IBM EGA monitor is a piece of crap that has lots of cheap garbage components in it. Relative to previous IBM monitors, they really cheaped out on the 5154. So the tripler is often required to get a good stable picture. You can get a picture, but it may wiggle or do weird stuff, and it's because just the internal design of the triplers are just not designed for 30 years of use. But I did manage to find a consignment of them in the USA for not a lot of money. Here's a funny story. Everyone's got a funny shipping story. So I ordered these things. I ordered 9 of these triplers, and I'm waiting for them to come from the US, waiting, and it's taken forever. And I get a letter from customs saying that, yeah, we got your electronic parts here declared at $9,000. You want to send us some cash dollars money to get these through customs, and I sort of thought about it for a bit. Thought, yeah, I know what's happened. The person sending them has forgot the decimal point between the and put $1,000 each for 9 items instead of instead of $100 each. So once I showed them the link to and the invoice for what I bought them for, it was sorted out and it came under the $1,000 threshold. So they on forwarded them to me eventually. But you know, I guess the joke was on me, wasn't it? So I don't know if anyone's ever had that someone has not cared that much that they're filling out a customs form that they've inadvertently put the wrong number. But that was a doozy. I like these monitors, but not that much. So I've got a few spare triplers left anyway, if I ever get these monitors again. But they really do give a really beautiful picture. It's almost a shame that the monitors themselves, before I acquired them, had been stored so poorly for so long that they've got scratches and marks. Unfortunately, it's what you get with 80s monitors if you can get them. So yeah, they're selling at a fairly reasonable clip. That I spent a lot of time on them, so they have to go for a lot of money. But the people that are getting them are happy with them, so that's good to know. So I think I've got about 2 or 3 spare brand new triplers. It's worthwhile if anyone's an IBM enthusiast and has and finds a 5154. That can be needed to get a good picture. I was going to ask, how's your one? Do you use yours often enough to tell, or?
My screen's beautiful.
Okay, all right.
You're talking to me, Mav.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, because the ones that I because I wanted them to be the best that they could, because I make a living out of them, so I want to maximize how much I can sell them for. I put a new tripler in each one of them, but even ones with which looked good, they still come up, you know, a million times better with a new
Really?
So,
How much are they worth then? You should sell me a tripler then.
yeah, talk to me. I'll get your people to talk to my people later.
Yeah, that's good.
He's got a few old ones he just ripped out that you can sell to you.
I've got a box of old ones that have things like, you know, like almost good or marginal, or I don't know why I keep the ones which say doesn't work properly. But
did you check the voltage by any chance before and after coming out of the tripler? Have you got one of those high voltage probes?
No, I don't. So it was really just it was just a bit of research, and fortunately for the crapulent monitor that it is, there is a lot of information out there and a lot of people who can point out what causes what problems and how to fix them. So they're cheaply made, but ultimately very fixable. And when they're working properly, they really have a gem of a picture. They're kind of weird IBM outsource design monitor in that they put a really high quality tube in it, but then built the insides of it to the lowest possible price, and which I don't mind that much. But I mean, all the E-caps in it are rated at 85 degrees, and those suckers run hot. They run maybe 60 or 70 or 75 degrees inside. So when I recap them, I replace them all with 105 degree cap. But that's why whenever you find one, generally speaking, every E-cap is out of spec, because they've ran hot for years before they've before the monitors have been decommissioned. So
do you reckon?
Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, do you reckon that's due to timing with EGA, it being a little bit late, later in the life by then? There were a lot of clones out on the market, and they just had to bring the price down to be competitive.
Anthony, IBM invented EGA, didn't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the 5154 is the first EGA monitor. I don't know. I maybe they figured that they over-engineered the 5151 and 5153 monitors and said we should we should make this thing a little bit cheaper so that it wears out within the life cycle of the computer. I saw somewhere, I forget where I saw it, but it was online somewhere, was a tech bulletin or a bulletin from IBM about the a list of the problems with the EGA monitor, and at the end of the bulletin it sort of said, salespeople, it might even be just easier to convince your clients to move over to the new VGA standard. which is why so buy a VGA card and a PS2 monitor and piss off the EGA. So that's my monologue for the month.
One thing I don't like about the 51.4 is the independent steel cages inside the casing. It's like, not only on a monitor that you pull apart, typically you will find the board, you'll find all the components right there ready to go. But on the 51.54, everything is in a steel box, and you've got to open all the steel boxes and the boxes. You know what I'm talking about, Ian? You must.
Yeah.
It's a freaking nightmare.
Like the 2C monitor.
Sorry?
Like the 2C monitors.
I can't comment because I haven't pulled too many of them apart.
Yeah, well, it's got a power supply in one box. It's got a base thing on the bottom, which is the I guess the high HT driver to the CRT and the connections for the contrast and brightness system, and then you got one box on one side, which is the power supply, and another box on the other side, which is called the video processing box, which is what takes your signal and determines whether it's being fed a CGA or EGA signal, and it basically has two circuits for every. It has a circuit for each mode doubled up inside that box. So every place there's a cap, there's two of them. Every place there's a potentiometer for adjustment, there's two of them marked V1 and V2. So it's a very complicated discrete component monitor. There's not a lot of big VIA or any VSLI chips in it. It's just a complicated mofo of a monitor. So yeah, I'll be glad when the last one is gone.
Buy it now, guys. Buy it now.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. Rob, you're up. What's going on?
I don't really have much fancy stuff. I mean, the biggest thing for me, I've just been playing around with the new firmware for the Ultimate 2 Plus cart, which came out the other week, which adds 1571 and 81 emulation to it.
Really?
Yeah, and then Gmod 2 cartridge support, which is what a lot of the new homebrew games run with. So the ultimate device for the 64 is even more ultimate.
So how do you upgrade that?
Basically, because it's just a USB thumb drive, you just you download the firmware package from the Ultimate website, just copy it on, boot it up, and once you mount the drive, you can just see the firmware file and hit update, and it'll update it, and then you just reboot.
Great, I need to do that.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes, pretty much all automatic.
Do you have the Ultimate 64 as well?
Yeah.
Do you have to do that? Is there a firmware update for that as well?
Yeah, it's like all the devices in the family have separate firmware files, just because of slightly different chipset and stuff.
Yep.
I haven't done that yet because there's a couple of little quirks with the new firmware. Some USB 2 thumb drives it doesn't like, and unfortunately, I have a USB 2 thumb drive in the U64, and that didn't come up because I've got a weird quirk. So my day-to-day 64 is built around the individual Reloaded Mark II, which is basically a brand new motherboard designed around one of the classic motherboards. It takes all the original chips, but instead of using the brick power supply, it uses a 12-volt wall wart, produces a bit of a cleaner signal. Unfortunately, because that's not shielded, it's been picking up a lot of interference. So I'm in the middle of troubleshooting that. And also my keyboard that is in the build with the Reloaded has had a couple of keys die. So I have to pull the keyboard apart and start fixing that. So yeah, I've actually gone. So behind me, where my 64 is set up, it's back to my original childhood 64C. because I've been doing capture, obviously, for video stuff. I was streaming off the VIC-20 a couple of weeks ago, playing a bunch of stuff there. Had fun with a relatively modern game called Escape 2020.
What's the premise of that game?
2020 is a thing that you have to escape from. So it's sort of like this game where you flick through multiple screens, flick screen shooter, you blast stuff, get keys, and try to just make your way through the maze. Really impressive. It runs on an unexpanded VIC, so it's all squeezed into 3.5K.
So nothing to do with the coronavirus.
No coronavirus. Oh. It's just 2020 is this nebulous concept.
Oh, okay.
That was a fun one. It was good. I haven't had the VIC fired up for a while, so I thought I was talking with friends in discussion, one of our private chats. It's like, yeah, I've got the itch to put the VIC out, so getting that, the penultimate cartridge makes things pretty easy to manage and squeeze that on my desk. Other than that, I've been just video stuff that I've been planning. I've got another review coming out this weekend, next weekend, which is on particular 64 Amiga Super NES, and I'm working on. I did a video last year with sort of Dark Age releases, which was like I picked 12 games for the 64 that came out in the mid to late 90s when, after commercial support had died, but before the internet was a thing, that these games just slipped through the cracks. So I picked 12 and talked about them. I'm doing a sequel for that for the early 2000s. So I've sort of just been whittling my list down. I'm going to start grabbing footage and picking that up. Because one of the things I found in the gaming side of the community is that there's all this talk for the classic stuff that came out back in the day when these machines were viable. And there's a talk for all the modern stuff coming out today, which we all know about because of the way the internet and the communities work. But there's this period when the machines died, and before that there's zero talk about. So I thought I'd do that.
Oh, neat.
Do that.
Should be very.
And that's sort of, I think, very important to talk about. Maybe when I do this, I might do it on some other machines, but I don't have enough knowledge of the backgrounds there that I feel I could do a decent job. Probably do it. I'd want to Spectrum probably one, but most of the games there are going to be coming out of Russia, so work out how to run those to capture. Atari 8-bit would be cool. I may have to order. I saw that Fujinets have in stock somewhere, so I may have to order one based on how much you were raving about it.
Yeah, Fujinet's great. It's a fun gadget, and don't get too stressed about which version you get, because the 1.3 is out now, but if you can only get 1.2, it's just as good. There's like very little difference between 1.2 and 1.3.
I saw Vintage Computer Center had 1.5, which sounds like it's very minor over 1.3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just got to find out if they ship to Oz, and if they do, I'll.
Vintage Computer Center does.
Cool.
I bought from Vintage Computer Center.
Oh, there we go. I'll put.
That's where mine's from.
Then I could probably just pull up my phone and Apple Pay it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a great supplier, and they're pretty fast too.
Yeah.
I think I bought the 80 column cart off them as well.
Oh yeah.
But it's the Ace 80 I got the right cartridge because I've never had a right cartridge. That's my first right cartridge, so that's pretty cool.
I haven't got an 800, so I've only got a 800 XL, which I need to replace the RAM on, and a 130 XE. I should try and get a sys check for the XL, so I can at least diagnose, but also expand the RAM there. Because I got the 130 XE just so I can run some of the newer games that require 128K RAM.
Cool. Yeah, I've been. It's only been a year, but I'm going to install the Ultimate 1 megabyte in something, but I just haven't done it.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway. Cool. Anything else then, Rob?
No, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Great. Stuart, what are you doing?
I've been mucking around with a bit of modems lately, old dial-up modems.
Yep.
And I haven't received it yet, but I've actually bought a Hayes. You guys are probably familiar with the Hayes modems back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, their first modem was actually for an S100. You actually used in an IMSI, like the one I've got. So I've actually managed to get the first well, not the first model they released for that, which is pretty cool. I've been using analog phone adapters, which are what you use to connect like an analog phone to the internet for VoIP. So you can buy these little boxes for the little sort of Cisco ATA box for about 40, 50 bucks. And what you can do is you can actually connect them up so that one line calls another line. So they act like a phone exchange. So I can actually connect an old modem up to it, get a dial tone and actually dial another number, which is another exchange. So basically like calling one computer to another computer through, just for the fun of it, you know, at the old rate. So I've got one of the original Hayes modems plus the one from EMSI and a few other ones. I've just been mucking around with that. I tell you what's interesting though is if you want to do friended board, you'd think that'd be pretty easy because of how slow it is, but all the codecs they use for VoIP really kills transmitting stuff over that. So I can dial direct without the internet, which is cool. But if I go through my ISP, they seems to get a bit hammered for some reason. So anyway, that's probably about all I've been doing. To get those to work, I had a couple of old modems that didn't work, so I had to fix them. So that was part of the fun as well. But otherwise, that's about it.
Hey, Stuart, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I've had that same vision. I bought an 8-line PABX, which has 8 extensions on it. So you can dial the extension, and the plan was, it's pathetic, right? My plan was to have a computer, like set up like OS2, right? And have an 8-line BBS or something. And then you call the one and you can have like a little display at a show that never happens because no one's actually really interested in doing it. So yeah, I've had that vision too, but it's still...
Well, there's a guy on the internet that's done that. What he's got is he's got a whole heap of Apple IIs or Apple IIes, and inside them he's got the original modems, and he's got those connected to, basically what he's done is he's used original software and he's used all of the hardware that you'd use. So he's bought himself like a miniature phone exchange, and eventually it gets on the internet. So you can actually dial up, you can actually go to, if you use Telnet, you can actually Telnet to his site. I think it's like whatever his site is with port number 6502 he decided to use. Same sort of thing. So what happens is that it's original software on the computer, so completely standard. So that's the same thing I want to do. I want to get my EMSI to dial up, you know, my K-Pro, and then get my K-Pro to dial up my IBM or something like that, and just sort of go through the errors of, you know, get on the internet through the hardest possible way known to man. If you know what I mean, using old technology. So yeah.
I did something very similar about 15, 20 years ago, where I had a Commodore 64 sitting above my desk. I wrote a piece of crap software in Visual Basic that emulated a Hayes modem. And basically, if you telnet it into a port, it would send all the signals as if it was receiving a call, and you could connect to a bulletin board. But after about 2 months, I got bored and shut it down.
Well, look, you know, I'm probably not going to put this online, but I was just going to wire it up tonight. I got a Terrace 80 Model 100, which has got like the modem built in, and I got a light pen for that the other day, which I don't know what I want it for, but I just want to get it running. So I was just
I've never used one. I've never used a light pen.
Well, it's not a light pen. It's a barcode scanner.
Oh, right. I use that.
And actually, if my video looks really crap, it's because I decided to plug in the oldest possible webcam I could find, which is actually off one of the original Xboxes, I think, or something. So, but just to make it a bit more retro. But yeah, no, it's a light barcode scanner. So that connects into the 100, and I haven't got any cables for me cassette or anything. And the guy on eBay said, "Oh, here's a copy of the program to get your barcode thing running as a WAV file." So I was going to run that off the PC. So I was just wiring up. Hey Mav, you'd know these you can't really tell the DIN plugs on the back of those 100s. There's like a 8 pin and a 9 pin. They're not standard to TRS-80 only, are they? Or they're pretty rare, I guess.
The 5 pins for the cassette. What's the other one?
Well, that's the thing. On the back of mine, there's no 5 pin. The cassette, it's actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got 8 pins. They've both got 8, but they're a different orientation, which is strange. This is the Model 100.
Yeah, I haven't got mine here.
But I've got an 8-pin plug that fits in, but the other 8-pin plug, the last couple of pins are in a different orientation. So just curious to know if they're just, I can't imagine Tandy would have made them unique just for their unit, maybe. Well, I mean, it's a Kyocera, isn't it? It's not actually Tandy.
Yeah, I know. Think about Kyocera. I mean, the Tandy wasn't really great for standardizing, but they did standardize on a 5-pin DIN for the cassette port, and the Model 100 was the sort of the entry level storage unit for those things.
But you're saying it's a 5-pin for cassette. I've just counted it. I've got 2 of them. I'll count the other one, and it's not. They're not 5, but maybe a 5-pin plug will still fit in it.
That sounds more like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't the other port the one for the disk drive?
The disk drive uses the serial port, so it's a serial disk drive that has a DB25 cable that hangs out to it, and then there's the disk video unit, which I've never seen. They were extremely overpriced and not particularly useful. That plugs in underneath the Model 100 into a 40-pin connector under a trapdoor. But I
was wondering what that was for.
Yeah, but they gave access to like a monochrome 80 by 24 monitor and I don't know, 184K single-sided disk drive, or 2 of them.
I'm guessing they're pretty rare, are they?
The disk video units.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen one actually here. I've only ever seen them in the US.
Oh, well, if you've never seen one, they must be rare. I never knew they existed, so.
They're in the Tandy catalogue, but I mean, yeah, I've never seen one here. I saw one demonstrated at Tandy Assembly a couple of years ago when I was there, and I mean, I'm not a Model 100 enthusiast, so it was a little underwhelming.
Fair enough.
Cool.
So that means the pinout for the, I'll just have a look online. Anyway, the pinout for the cassette would be the same pinout for TRS-80 Model 1 and 100?
Yeah, model,
all of them.
The pinouts are the same, but yeah, you want the cable that's used on the Model 3, 4 Coco MC10.
Okay.
You'll work it out. You're probably right. It probably only uses, is it a female connector on your Model 100?
Yes.
Maybe it only uses 5 of the 8 pins that are.
Yeah, I don't have a 5-pin handy, but I'm sure they both plug in. But yeah, what's weird is I tried to plug it in the other one, which was for the phone. Yeah, because it's got a modem built into it. I wanted to plug that in and get that running. But yeah, it's a different 8-pin plug, so that's strange. The last 2 pins where the notches are closer together, so not sure what the deal is there. I'm sure I'll work it out. I've only just looked just tonight.
Yeah.
Cool. Alan, what have you been up to in the last 2 months?
Oh, lots of scanning, of course. For those that have got an Exody Sorcerer, I've just scanned half of the Sorcerer user group of South Australia newsletters. Whole pile of good stuff in there. Computer-wise, a Super 80 from Dicksmith. Received a couple of those that had literally just been cut out of their box, snip, 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 and took all the cables off and any chips and boards, and yeah, so in the process of trying to revert them back to a working condition. So waiting for some cases to arrive shortly so we can actually mount them in a case. And,
did Dicksmith sell a case for those?
Yes, they did. A horrible looking bloody case, mind you. Absolute crap case. And then the Super 80 group on Google. Yeah, they've sort of redesigned it and made it a little bit better and put some ventilation in and room for a fan and et cetera, et cetera.
Cool.
So, yeah, so hopefully a couple of those will be arriving shortly and start mounting them. I had to even, there's no keyboard. The keyboard had been removed from the unit. They use the old micro:bit keys, so I've got plenty of keys. But the actual bit that where the keys mount to is different than the micro:bit. So I couldn't use one of those because I've got a few spare micro:bits, as you're aware. Yeah, just an odd few. I already had a lot. I got more when I got a few from you, Anthony. Yeah, as you know, I've got a fairly wide collection of micro:bits, right from the original kit to the 16, 32K, of the 56K, Chook in a Book, PC85, PC85 Premium, Premium 128, the 128 Overdrive, 256 TC, right through to their first MS-DOS model that they imported. So I've got a few micro:bits, missing a couple, but they're all there.
You mean the MyTac one or the Matilda?
Yeah, MyTac one.
Yeah, okay, right up. Cool.
Yeah, the Matilda. Yeah, as you know, I've got the manual. Well,
I once had the manual too.
Yeah. Look very similar to the one you had, actually.
Actually, I think it might be it.
It might have been the exact one, yeah. I actually have a motherboard too, but there's got a particular chip made here in Melbourne that can no longer be reproduced or remade. So you can't make a Matilda, and they only sold 200 of them. So the story goes. I only know of one. Yeah, so other than that, I have lots of other bits and pieces and looking after grandkids and all that sort of stuff. Cool. Other than that, yeah, been busy.
No worries. David, have you been doing anything interesting since the last time we saw you, which would have been almost probably a year ago? Yep, he can't find me.
Yeah, phone on mute. Yeah, I've been doing lots, much, and not enough all at the same time. So, I mean, recently, last few months, I've been trying to build a 386, rebuild a 386, but bits of it keep dying. I keep finding new bits. I'm trying to pimp it out a bit, make it look a bit more gamer. So it's going and then not going. So that's a frustration. But last couple of days have been pretty exciting because I've got the new Kindness pet kit.
Oh, sweet! Not the one with the keyboard in the plastic enclosure.
Yeah. Oh, so there it is.
Oh, sweet ass!
Wow.
There you go,
Nice.
Dave. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
We've been toying with the idea of buying it, but Dave and I probably have too many things, and we've been struggling with why we should buy one. But I'm glad someone has. So good on you.
Yeah, no, it's well worth it. I didn't get a chance to get the original one. I talked to Dave originally about it when he was doing the first kit. I didn't get a chance to get that one. And he sort of reached out a couple of months ago now and said, I'm making some more. And by the way, I need your help. So I got this one pretty quickly. So I don't know if anyone follows his blog or his Patreon or not, but he's been redoing my game for the pet, which was the Tut Tut game.
Oh.
So he's been he sort of took my code for the ZX81 for that and the Spectrum code that I wrote for that as well, and then converted there's basically the ZX81 version to the pet. So that's, you know, a bit secret, but it's going to be released in the next month or so, I think. It was supposed to come out with a kit, but they're sort of there's a bit of they're trying to work out what to put in the actual kit.
So that's going to be sold by The Future Was 8-Bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I still got the original game, but which is the Spectrum and the ZXE1. That's still going through Chronosoft, but the pet one's coming.
Oh, that's
The Future
great.
Was 8-Bit.
Well, I'll certainly be ordering that.
Yeah, it's a really good conversion actually. See, so I sort of gave him the code, I guess, almost eight or 9 months ago for that. I hadn't heard back from him because he got a bit, when the whole COVID thing hit his business a bit hard. So he sort of shut shop and then transferred everything over to The Future Was 8-Bit. And then, so I didn't hear from him for a while. And he sort of came back and said, yeah, hey, well, I finished it almost. And I sort of tested it out and helped him polish off the few remaining bits of the game. So that was good. Then I got the kits from that. So I had to buy the kit, but it wasn't a freebie.
You actually got a free kit. Oh, sweet.
No, it wasn't free. I got the disk drive interface for free, but not the rest of the kit. It's actually a fair bit.
Future or whatever it's called. Yep.
Yeah. But the kit's a fair bit more expensive than the original one, but I think it's worth it. The keyboard, and there's a lot of complaints about the keyboard, and everyone had some problems with that.
Yeah, I bought the original mini pet and I mounted it in a dead pet's case. So I'm using the existing pet keyboard and a pet monitor. It's in the other room, but yeah, it's a good bit of gear. Yeah, he did a great job. David's done a great job. So if anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, you can buy pet clones now from The Future Was 8-Bit in the UK. So if you're interested, and David's got one there he just showed us, you can buy a whole unit. You don't need anything. You just plug it into your TV, away you go.
So unlike the original one, this one's designed pretty much just to be a standalone unit. So I don't think it'll fit. Well, that's the original one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But I think this one's just a standalone unit. I think that's the way he's going to go with a couple of things. You know, but it's well worth.
It's great idea.
Well worth.
Great idea.
And the box is amazing too this time around.
Oh, really?
It comes in actually, I'll get the box.
Yeah. Let's see the box. Got to see the box.
Hey, so
no way. That's cool.
If you throw one of those,
show us the side. Show us the side on. How thick is it? Oh, yeah.
The side's just foam with a kit.
It's got a foam insert. Oh, sweet. So it's just like a real Commodore item.
hey, so if I put one of those boards into like a 40-column pet, would that turn into an 80-column pet, or?
Possibly.
Yeah, it would. This one does 80 column. It does 80 column and 40 column.
But it has that on the keyboard, which wouldn't be on a pet keyboard, Pat.
But you can set it. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's got that special key on the keyboard that does it.
Yeah, but there's also on dip switches as well, so you can set it for the default one. So if you don't want to keep, then you have to open up the case to set it back. But it can be done.
Yeah, cool.
It can be done. I think it's a good manual too. So.
Oh, sweet.
I think my mini pet came in a padded bag basically. So.
Well, Dave usually does pretty good documentation, but this is like, it's a step above what. So the powers of The Future Is 8-Bit and Dave combined, they sort of come up with something pretty special this time around.
Yeah, that's a neat bit of gear.
Yeah, so that's my big news.
Very good.
So, yeah.
So the next person is Mike. So Mike, I know this is your first time to the Zoom, but I know you personally. So tell me what you've been doing recently, Mike.
I've been working on something. It's been a long-term project. I call it the Rat Shit 64, and it's an SX64 that I got. And when I opened it up, it was full of rat shit or mouse poo.
Can you say, what do you say? It's got. Well, can you repeat what you're saying? I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
It's, I called this machine the Rat Shit 64.
Okay, right. Okay, I did.
Ratchet. That's what I thought you said. Ratchet.
Yeah, that's what I think he is saying. Okay, good.
Yes.
That was an unexpected find when I opened this machine up. So obviously it had been in a a shed or something like that, and it's missing the storage pocket, so that's the entry point of the vermin. So it was a complete tear down. Like I literally pulled this thing down to just the bare metal chassis, and then had to sandpaper it, all the rust off it, and use good old rust neutralizer like you would on a vehicle, and it came up really good. It came up, as good as I could want anyway. The rest of it I washed within an inch of its life. I've been replacing dead chips. It's like chasing the cat chasing its tail. You replace one chip and something else, one chip, something else. But eventually we got it up and running.
Wow.
And I was over the moon, although I used pretty much every single spare chip I think I had in the place. And I recently managed to get, it came with the keyboard, which is good. And it even came with the keyboard cable, which made up for the fact the seller didn't really indicate where it had been living for most of its life. And there were a few broken bits and pieces on it, which I managed to get from someone. And I think tonight was the first time I'd had it physically looking like an SX64, all back together. One downside is, as I was clipping the keyboard back together, one of the clips broke. I don't know if you're familiar with it, the SX keyboard is a two-piece. It's the top half and the bottom half. As I was clipping the top half back in, one of them broke. But other than that, it looks, and other than the fact it's missing the drive pocket, it works and it looks like a real SX64, and it cleaned up a tree.
Where is it? I don't see it. I don't see it.
It's I can possibly take, I don't know how well to transfer through, but
oh wow,
it's actually
I was hoping it was in the room.
No.
It's at this point he realizes his laptop is plugged in.
No, thankfully not.
Oh wow. Oh, there it is.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, that's a very basic case you've got there.
The keyboard is hard to do this with him actually.
You get a pocket 3D printed?
Possibly, I guess. I've looked on Thingiverse for bits and pieces, and actually Thingiverse is pretty amazing now. What parts are actually on there? There's even the stabilizer. There's two pieces for the space bar. So you got two sort of plastic pieces that the wire bar fits into, which I'm missing on mine. And someone's even got them on Thingiverse now, which is amazing. But I haven't come across a pocket. So that's probably, yeah, I don't know. If one comes up, that's fine. But I'm pretty happy with it. I will say, do you remember Aldi a few weeks ago was selling the glue, the UV cured glue?
Mm-hmm.
I bought some, and I thought tonight would be a great time to try fixing that clip. Yeah, it's rubbish. Just saying, it's not as good as super glue. Nowhere near. It just I glued it on, and I was the gentlest I've ever been putting this thing back into its case, and straight away it just broke off. So yeah, I think if you're going to restore a machine, stick to super glue or gorilla glue or something like that.
Very good. That's an awesome project. Well done on getting that SX64 back to life. That's cool as.
Thank you.
Can you tell me? You said that the seller didn't tell you its condition. Now, please don't tell me you paid a fortune for it.
No, well, I think I was fortunate. It was listed, it started off, I think, at the usual $90, $80 or something, and I ended up paying. I got it for $400, and then it was $50 for shipping. And
this is on eBay.
eBay.
You paid
eBay, and
$400 for SX64 that rodents lived inside.
well, I didn't know about the road at first.
And
The
did you give this
pictures-
guy a positive rating on eBay?
Let's just say I gave him a pretty neutral. Because one of the things
I think that's why Ian has just turned around in his chair, because he was the guy who sold it to you.
Really?
No, probably not.
I would have vacuumed the poo out.
Oh, but that was half the fun. Now look, the pictures kind of indicated that it was in better condition than it was. You know, the magic of lighting, I guess. But yeah, there was no mention that it had the keyboard cable. But the thing that attracted me to it was I saw it had a keyboard, and it was in pretty reasonable condition. I thought, ooh, SX and keyboard that looked in reasonable condition. And look, to be honest, aside from the fact that a rodent had got in there, it could have been a lot worse because there was no urination on any circuit board. I was absolutely amazed that it was all just in spots inside the case, only a couple of spots and just a handful of rat poop.
You're the best eBay customer ever. I have to say, Mike. I gotta say, if I ever sell something on eBay, I want to sell it to you because I can tell you what.
I was just ecstatic. I was like, after previously owning some, SX64s that I then had to sell off when I moved, I just wanted to have one complete, fully working unit, and I just saw in that the opportunity to create that machine, and the fact that it turned up with a keyboard cable to me was like, oh holy shit, it's worth it for that. And the
$285. So I guess when you look at that,
yeah, well, those cables are amazing. Like they come up for the most outrageous prices, and yeah, as I was unpacking it.
For what it's worth, I listed it for $15.
What's so special about the cable?
It's got a right angle piece on it and has a Commodore logo on it.
Oh, okay. So it's just a DIN, is it, or something? What is it?
It's a 25.
It's
like a 25.
CB25. In fact, there's on Thingiverse, someone's come up with a really good version.
Yes, they have.
Too. Yeah, that is amazing. That's gangbusters. I probably wouldn't even bother bidding on a real cable now that I've seen that. I'm like, oh, build it.
Cool.
And it's much better than the version 1.
Yeah, that's next on my list of things to print out at the moment. It's a replacement keyboard cable because I want to keep the original one in mind because some of the pins are a bit wonky.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what I ended up having to do with my Commodore 128D keyboard, and sold all 25 of those fucking things into a right angle DB25 connector.
I'm sorry about that, mate.
Anyone else got a good vintage PC rat shit story?
Yeah, I received a microbead from somebody who knows themselves here. For those that know a microbead, you've got your memory core board plugs in the back, and it's about a centimetre above the rest of the main board. Looking through the few computers I got, pulled them apart.
Come on, Alan.
And in between the core board and the main board was the remains of a mouse.
Oh, you're kidding me.
All we got was this big pile of fur and bone. All the meat had gone.
Look, I apologise.
I haven't got that one going yet, but
for the record, it's not. That would be how I would have received it. So I picked up all those micro-Vs from Blaney, New South Wales, in about 1998, and I went up with a trailer and I picked up so many machines. And for the record, I basically dumped them on Alan for a tidy sum, and he even got the mouse, which normally you charge $400 for. Apparently,
he's got the rare micro B mouse. Yeah.
But come on, if you're gonna go in a computer, that's a very Aussie way of going, like in a micro B.
Wow.
My funny mouse story. One of my regulars. I call anyone who buys more than one thing off me a regular, so there's a lot of them. Bought a Model 4, a restored Model 4 off me in 2001, so a long time ago. And then he contacted me in 2018 because it's interstate, and the most apologetic email from him saying that he loved the computer when he got it, and then stored it improperly, and would he be able to send it down to me to fix it up? Which yeah, no problem when it got here, and it quite obviously it was full of mouse shit, and they really enjoyed their life in there because they chewed up most of the cables and everything, and it was a disgusting job actually. But I eventually got something about the design of the Model 4 at least meant that I think all it needed a complete new wiring loom, which I had spare wiring looms, so that wasn't a problem. But I think as far as replacement parts, I ended up replacing one floppy drive and the other one was serviceable, and the machine just needed a good clean out and, you know, sit in the sun, and it still required a complete tear down because the mouse piss had got under, you know, chassis rails.
It was a restoration that started with an air compressor and a hose.
Well, yeah, it was pretty obvious once I got the lid off that really the only way to proceed was going to be to completely disassemble this Model 4 down to its component parts, and then start with a gurney on the base and the lid. Jason Weber's got a Model 3. You know what they're like inside. So
yeah, well, I was going to say both on the 3 and the 4, the disk drives are basically like rat apartments.
Yeah,
on top of each other.
I know. And I was actually thinking back to when I acquired that Model 4, because I've got a photographic memory, so I can remember a lot of stuff. And I got this Model 4 at a we call them in Melbourne trash and treasure markets, but they're basically big flea markets, I suppose. I mean, oh God, I can't remember, but it was probably like it was the end of the day, they wanted $10 and I made them a counter offer of $5 and walked away with my prize.
Cheap bastard.
Hey, it was 1997. When I opened the disk drives up, they're all full of lolly wrappers, like, you know, from fantails and things like that. And I'm pretty perceptive. I think I've pretty much worked out that maybe the adult of the family used this computer, then handed me down to the, you know, 10-year-old son and said, "Here, son, have a computer." And the son's gone, I want a better computer. And the dad's gone, well, while that thing still works, you're not getting one. So they just put more and more rubbish into the disk drives till the thing stops working, and then I got it. because quite literally, when I took out all of the lolly wrappers and gave the disk drive heads, which were very dirty, a clean, it does pretty much all it needed. It was a perfectly working machine. So yeah, I've heard about kids doing that with all sorts of things.
I was very stupid once. I put a City Rail ticket into the floppy drive of a Dell Dimension XPS because I thought it's magnetic data strip, right? The floppy drive should be able to read it. Tell me what's on it. I was not correct.
I pulled apart my my main gaming PC about a week ago, and it was just upgrading some of the fans in it because one of them was getting a bit noisy, and had to move the CD drive. I've owned the same sort of serial ATA DVD drive for, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years, And I've got a lot of kids. I've got 4 kids, ranging between 8 and 16 years old. So God knows which one of them did this, but when I pulled the CD drive out, I noticed a rattle. Oh my goodness, what is that? A bit of fiddling and unscrewing and poking around later, I got 3 5-cent pieces out of the thing.
Yeah.
That must have been in there for years and years and years. I just hadn't moved the CD drive by itself for that long and noticed this noise. But thank goodness it didn't just sort of bounce at the wrong time and short something out.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking about that before you said it. I've been going through a lot of my duplicates, and I've been looking at some Mac Classics, and one of them had a particular rattle to them, and you couldn't put any boot discs in this Mac Classic. The reason why was it was full of 20-cent pieces. And it's like, I don't know what people are thinking. I really don't. But the drive had 20-cent pieces jammed in, and the case had 20-cent pieces stuck in the bottom of it. So anyway.
It's sitting in some computer cafe, it's 20 cents an hour for dial-up internet, and you just...
Yeah, I think this one came from a school, but yeah, I think kids are just idiots.
Yep.
I like computers from schools because the kids, when they're bored, rearrange the keys into all sorts of things,
alphabetical order.
And one of another interesting one when I worked at the freight company, because I was the IT hardware buyer for the freight company I worked for. I don't know if you all know what a company buyer is, but they buy stuff for the company, and everything we had was leased because it was a large enterprise, and so we'd get it all back at the end of 3 years. And once I got a keyboard back that had the keys arranged. It said, "Don't marry her." Yeah, I thought you'd like that, Anthony. So,
oh my goodness, I'd love to hear.
I don't know who it came from, but I think some friend was trying to tell another something.
Oh, it's funny.
But the ones that come from schools, mainly they rearrange them into swear words because kids at school have no sense of humour.
Hey, Stuart, there's a link in there for you. Oh, you've seen it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I just had a look. I was just looking at one I found on the internet, which I'm just checking if 5-pin matches the 8-pin now that I've got that. Thank you.
Cool.
To whoever posted that, David. Yes.
Yeah. Straight from the manual.
Yeah, I don't. That's the one thing. I've got a really nice 100, but I have no manual, and I know I can download it, but I want to get a manual. But the thing is, every time someone puts them on eBay, just the manual, they know, I want to get heaps of money out of you.
I was pretty lucky with the manual. I got I got a model 100 and a 102. I got the 100 from some seller in Tasmania, and it came back up here to New South Wales, up in the Blue Mountains. It spent all its life like a suburb away from me.
Yeah.
Until I went to Tasmania for some reason, and it sort of oddly came home. But it came with a manual, which was really good. So it wasn't even listed with a manual. It just sort of turned out with a manual. Okay, well, that's pretty awesome.
No, it's always the extra nostalgia of having the manual's always nice.
Forrest, what have you been up to since we've seen you last?
Not terribly much. I just was wondering if I just heard there was another Blue Mountains person here, in which case, hi. I have a pile of parts for the new XT, which I still haven't gotten to putting together yet. I've been trying to play around with this weird Raspberry Pi Pico thing because I'm hoping to see if I can get it to emulate a old HP engineering calculator. I can spend like $300 in parts and have a HP engineering calculator, or I can spend $300 and get a HP engineering calculator I didn't build myself. Seems no-brainer. Other than that, I've just been reading a lot and not getting much done.
That's good. Yeah, it's been a challenging time, so it's easy to be distracted and not do.
Yeah,
stuff.
and I lost the little IDE card for my Apple II, but it's somewhere here.
But a focus one, or
It was the Brazilian one. Hang on, that's probably not very helpful.
I don't know what that one is.
Turbo IDE Brazil.
Okay. If it's Turbo IDE, I don't know that one. Cool.
Yeah, it was some weird thing that came out of Brazil. It's lovely though.
Speaking of Apple II and IDE, for those who don't know, you can now buy the CFFA 3000 from Reactive Micro. This is a very hard to get card that everybody needs. And for those who have 2GSs, it integrates into the ROM. A very important compact flash card. It comes with the compact flash and software. Highly recommend it. $229 US. Mine will arrive in the next couple of days. I highly recommend the CFFA 3000 because they used to sell on eBay for about $1,000 and now they're back on the market. So should you be wanting one, get one now.
I got to play with one for about half an hour. It is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, you should.
And I found the card I have. It's the Technobytes Classic IDE.
Oh, there you go. I'm not familiar with that one.
More than happy with my Booty card for a fraction of the price.
Your what?
Booty card, the one that David Minimer makes.
Booty. Yeah, cool. No worries.
Hi, everybody. May I ask, why is the CFFA 3000 so good versus the floppy emu and the Booty card? I'm only just getting into this, so I'm interested.
Data transfer rate.
It can also do both. Like it can be a floppy and a kind of hard disk emulator simultaneously. So
okay.
it's pretty versatile. I mean, all those solutions, Booty, floppy emu, they're all great. Floppy emu has the advantage of going through a smart port, so you can use it on a TC or that sort of thing.
I love floppy emu. Don't get me wrong. I love floppy emu.
But yeah, the CFFA is awesome.
I think it all really just depends on what you want to do with it. I mean, the thing I like about the Booty card is I've got like 2 or 3 2MG files full of games and utilities, and it's just like turn it on. Hey, look, there's a 32 meg hard drive image full of everything I could possibly want. I mean, that's all I really need.
And the plus side of Booty is it's cheap. It's really cheap. Really, really cheap.
And actually on that, I was obviously I've been chatting to David quite a lot lately, but he's about to release a version 2. It's pretty much the same cost and everything else, except it's the USB controls actually integrated onto the board. You know how the normal Booty's got that little kind of add-on off-the-shelf card hanging off the side. This is it's all on the one PCB. It's more reliable, yada, yada, yada. But the main thing is he should be able to pump them out quicker.
Is he going to sell it by himself and not use that other person?
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay, he had some issues.
Well, I was just going to ask.
That with the code? Yeah, well, that was with the co-designer. I mean, that guy wasn't completely full of shit or anything.
Where can I look to find the Booty card then, Jason?
Contact David Minimer through the group.
Yep.
Okay, so just directly?
Yep.
Yeah.
He would love to talk to you.
Because
okay, no worries.
I wish you could bloody set up a website or something.
If you start Googling, then you'll get the impression like you can never get hold of them, and that's because in the US they basically buy them as soon as he ships them over, more or less. But he can get you one pretty easily locally, no problem at all.
Because he builds them.
Yeah.
He'll make it the day you request it.
Okay.
To you.
Well, not at the moment because there's a hell of a backlog.
Oh, right up.
No, there's a backlog because he's been doing the development work on the version 2. He's kind of there's a bit of a backlog.
Yeah, that's okay. I did Google and it just seemed like you could only ever buy it from the US, and I was thinking, well, this guy's Australian. So I was going to reach out to you anyway. All right. Well,
he's in the group. To just shout out to him.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, when I get my Apple TGS, hopefully,
one day
with the lube, Jason.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely go hook up and get a Booty card.
I've got one in my Booty card lube. I've actually moved mine into my 2GS, but I'll probably be picking up a second one.
Okay, thanks. Good to hear. Thank you.
Actually, Dean Claxton up in Queensland's been working on a ROM switcher. So different models for the different models of Apple II. So there's one for the 2E, and there's one for 2C.
Oh, you're talking about the ROM for the XE and the X?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah. The ROM X, yep.
It basically gives you the boot menu of the ROM 4X. So the ROM 4X is the one you can get for nothing for 2C, and he's basically been able to develop that into the same thing.
But you can have several ROMs in there,
yes,
so you can actually
switch. I'm still not sure what the benefit of that is, though.
Just being able to boot into different ROMs. But so you were talking before about, well, if you only had one game that you're interested in, one of the things that they were doing was just throwing Choplifter in as a ROM and just going straight into that. So
I suppose that's okay, fair enough.
See, I got that wrong. It should have been the Oregon Trail, not Choplifter.
Well, you feasibly could, if it will fit into, I guess, whatever the ROM size is. So,
well, while you're talking, Pat, you should jump in to tell us what you're doing. What have you been doing since I've seen you last?
As per usual, I've been pretty busy, but with work stuff more than anything else, and doing a couple of jobs, more than one job than what I should be doing at the moment. But I've been doing a little bit of restoration on a lot of random stuff, like doing a restoration on a Amiga 1000 keyboard, recapping a X68000, and trying to get my hands on a RAR SCSI for that.
I would love to hear. I hear good things about them. I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah, I've got a few. I've got one 68,000 on me now. I've actually got a few sitting in Japan, but they're too expensive to ship over while COVID's going on. So they've been sitting there for a while. But actually, I know you've gotten rid of most of your Ataris, Anthony, but I just managed to
16 and 32 bits.
Yeah. Of course. Actually, I'll talk about the 8 bits in 1 second, but I managed to get my hands on a relatively cheap TT, which I've been interested in getting a hold of for ages, and the parts room are as rare as hen's teeth. But I only just worked out that Germany's like this massive hotbed of TTs and TT parts and whatever else. I wish I'd worked that out a few years ago, but because I've just been watching them go past and they're so freaking expensive all the time. So anyway, so I'm in process of kind of scavenging parts for that to do a bit of a rebuild, and I've outsourced. So I have a pristine, well, semi-pristine. I still got to do a little bit of work on my Atari 800, but I'm getting Flash Jazzcat to do an Incognito plus Sophia to upgrade. In fact, he's just done a video on a Hacko soldering station upgrade, and he's talking about the work he's about to do on my Atari 800 in that video. I think the next video will be my Atari 800. So,
oh, cool.
So I'll have a kind of a modernized Atari 800 and then just a straight one. So
I was really happy with the Sophia in my 800 XL.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so much worried about doing the Sophia upgrade. That's pretty straightforward. But the Incognito is a little bit intimidating, quite honestly. But anyway, I'll see how it goes. So funny thing was, so what made me do it? I saw like a dirt cheap 800, a PAL 800 on eBay in the UK, and I was like, oh, maybe I should. And then I just kind of spur of the moment did it, bought the 800, emailed the bloke, John, and said, hey, can you do this upgrade for me? He said, yeah, no worries. And so I had an Incognito in Australia that I mailed him. And I also had a Sophia on me that I'd actually been thinking about. I'd just been trying to decide which one I'd use it on. But he said to me, if you get the Sophia 2, it's got all this integration that you can kind of do and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, because I've probably got probably a total of about, including now this one, probably 6 8-bit Ataris of varying models. And so I can still use the Sophia I've got for something. But So anyway, I send the incognito from Australia, and I order the Sophia 2 from the US to go to John. He gets the Sophia 2 in like, I reckon, a week. The incognito sent from Australia probably took, I reckon, 2 months. And it basically within about a week, I put in the post, I stupidly didn't go high priority. So it basically goes through whatever it goes through with Australia Post. And then it says processed by customs or processed by air carrier. And I keep kind of hitting the reload button and there's just nothing happening. And it was like that for a month. It was like that for basically, and I had to wait for a full business month. And then I finally went, okay, now the full business month has elapsed. I put in a complaint into Ozpost and said, what's happening with this thing? It's been sitting there. And then the next day it turned up at John's place. So they mustn't have been updating it. But anyway, it's pretty annoying. Anyway, haven't been doing much, but yeah, just busy with stuff. So
cool.
That's life.
Pat, I'm really interested to see your progression with the X6800. So I'm not sure if you know, but I've got a full FM Towns.
Oh, yeah?
But the X6800 is the one that I really want. But I've been looking at like Yahoo Japan, and it's just ridiculous. Like they're selling for like $2,000, $2,100 US at the moment for complete systems. So that they obviously the Yahoo Japan sellers know that it's a captured market. It's a seller's market at the moment. Just to get one even reasonably cheap is just nigh on impossible. So very envious, and I'll live my life vicariously through you with your upgrades on it.
So the one I've got here is an Expert, which is it's still kind of the slower 68,000 with an option to be able to kind of equip it with a hard disk, and it's got 2 megs of memory. And there's a guy in France who was doing this combo expansion card, which is an 8 meg memory extension plus MIDI. So I bought a few cards from him because I've got one X68000 here, and I've got 2 sitting in Japan. I bought a Pro and I bought an XVI Compact, and they're both just sitting there, which is just driving me insane. But it'll get to me eventually. I also have an FM Towns, but it's a little worse for wear, and I actually ordered another one which also had a monitor with it, and I've gotten a very bad habit lately of collecting CRTs, and this
it's not a bad thing.
No, I don't. I don't have room, but I just still keep accumulating. So anyway, I bought this FM Towns in Japan. Once again, I can't afford to ship it over just yet, but it turned up at the auction. I use Bai for my Japanese auctions, mainly because they package stuff so well. The FM Towns turns up, and the guy has not separated the stand from the frickin' CRT. So the stand was kind of exploded, but everything else was completely fine. They sent me some photos, and they said, "Oh, we think there's an issue." And I said, "Can you just take photos of everything, not just the bits that look like they're broken?" And so they did photos of everything. Everything looked fine except the stand. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine without the stand." But I'm just waiting to get my hands on that. But anyway, I have too much stuff sitting in Japan. Anyway.
I'm surprised you said that the postage is well, then again, a monitor's not cheap, but I buy from Bai all the time as well. But they shipped my MSX2, the Sony Hitbit, and it was like I think it was only like $100 US, and that arrived in 3 business days. They shipped it on the Friday, and I got it on the Monday. Just incredible, and it was like it would have survived World War II. It would have survived the nuclear war. It was that well packed. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, their packaging is awesome, and so I've seen there's so Murray Irwin. I don't know whether you know him. He's from Sydney, and he and I are both Hitachi enthusiasts, and he shipped an old green character display for the very old, the very first PCs in Japan. One of them was the Hitachi MB 6880, and it came with a green character display. And he shipped that over using, I think it was Zen Market or something. oh my God, I mean, they probably, put some sticky tape around it and just sent it. Like it turned up and it was in pieces. And I spotted like some, like, so Hitachi disk drives are super, super rare. And I saw some on from Japan, and I tried to buy it through Buy, but it was one of those things where they went, no, not allowed. We won't buy from this seller for whatever reasons. They never really explained the reasons why. So I bought it through a different one from Japan, which is kind of like my secondary account. And mate, the way that they package those disk drives, like when it got to me, I was looking at it just going, I can't believe this is how you sent this to me, right? Like, I mean, so I got it out and I tested it, and it was all working fine, but just, it was with all the moving parts and stuff, it was amazing that the thing was still working. So anyway, but yeah, so I will maybe I'll post something on the X68000 at some point.
I take it you saw the RMC video on the X68000. He
Yeah,
did the MIDI card as well on it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll send. I don't know whether this French guy is making them anymore, but if you get an X68000, this looks like it looks like an awesome upgrade. Just with the combined 8 megabyte RAM expansion plus the MIDI, it's a pretty versatile upgrade. So
yeah, it looks like I might have to sell my SX64 to fund it. But
so if you're not trying to get an XVI or especially an X68030, right? So the X68030, which is the one using a Motorola 68030, those things are the ones that are really expensive. So those are the ones that'll typically go. If you can find one for $1,500, that's cheap for an 030. But with and then the XVIs are pretty expensive. Like you can probably find those. If you're lucky, you could find one for maybe $600-800, but typically they'll go north of $1,000. But then for everything else, so Aces, Pros, Experts, all the original models, you can if you shop around, you wait, you're patient about it, you can find them for a reasonable price. Well, then again, I haven't bought them for a while, so maybe COVID's kind of pushed all them up again as well.
Next project after the Amiga.
Cool.
Indeed.
And last but not least, Jason, tell us what you've been doing.
For the most part, I've been curled up under my bench crying over an Apple II Plus that's been driving me absolutely fucking mental. You probably saw my post on Facebook, but yeah. So basically, I dropped a bunch of cash on this supposedly mostly working Apple II Plus, and it just went from bad to worse to fucking disastrous. At one point, it was so bad that there was no life whatsoever, and I was getting a clock of like 3.5 megahertz at the CPU when it should have been 1, and I'm just like, what the fuck has gone wrong? And look, like I said on Facebook, if it wasn't for David Mortimer, I'd probably still be, this machine would be e-waste and I'd be kind of, twitching under the bench. But we eventually got there. It was just lots and lots of faulty or semi-faulty 74 series logic, dead RAM, and ruined sockets. Because Apple just, I think of all the design decisions that like Steve Wozniak obviously did like 99.9% of it, and Steve Jobs picked the socket supplier. That's the only thing I can put to it. Sitting here, this is the parts board. You probably can't see, but there's not much left in it. It's pretty much empty. This is actually the board I started with. And this is what got that weird clock that I could not find. And it wasn't until I then moved everything to the parts board that I got from Randall that I actually got life back into it again. And then as of kind of yesterday afternoonish or whatever it was on Facebook, I finally got it all working and all bolted together, and I finally have an early Apple II, which is something I've been wanting for a long time.
Cool.
But it was a struggle.
What's an early Apple II? What year is that?
Well, so it's hard to say now because like this thing's such a bitzer.
Well, what's on the original main board? Because they got the date code up near the power.
The date code's in the upper left-hand corner on that parts board. So you see the 4-digit number on the white patch.
It says 8150.
So it's week 50, 1981.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like early, but it's like, look, I basically consider anything before a 2E to be early, because really there wasn't any difference between the original Apple II, until you got to the 2E.
So do you reckon you'll get both boards going, or you're not going to bother? Is that too much of a headache? You've got one going, so you can use that as a reference.
Well, I've got to say I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
No, Randall and I do actually want to have a go at this at some point. Because what I did do is I went and raided the old engineering store at work for like every 75 series chip I could lay my hands on. You're probably not going to be able to see this, but so this is, don't tip. So this is all the spare 74s I stole from work, and all this down here is all the chips I removed and swapped and changed. And so they're all, you know.
You said stole from work, but I mean, wouldn't they be throwing them away? I mean, I've stolen
Look, they've been sitting there.
I've saved them from the bin, basically.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, they haven't been used in 15 years.
Yeah.
So we've got most of the ROM chips. There's a CPU here, which I think is actually faulty. It's all 74 series, like 257s and 161s and stuff. The 8304, which is going to be a pain in the ass to replace. And then just mountains of 4116 RAM of dubious nature. But finally got there. Disk drives work, fixed the language card, disk controller works, got that beautiful little 9-inch from Andrew. Who did I get it from? Andrew Saunders? Anyway, and it just looks perfect here. The only thing I might do is the monitor is kind of a grey on grey, so it might get a coat of paint in something a bit beigeish, but other than that, it's done. Done.
You mean DP8304 chips? Was that what you were talking about a moment ago?
What is that? What is it?
What actually is that chip?
It's an 8304. It's
a 20-pin
device? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a few of them.
Oh, fuck you.
A family-friendly broadcast.
Not now, good Christian Zoom.
Put a couple aside for me, thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
This Zoom has just been demonetized.
But yeah, I mean, because you remember the Apple II is just ROMs, processor, RAM, and 74 series logic from top to bottom. It's got, the only thing that isn't a 74 is there's a couple of 555 timers, the 8304, there's the HT97s, which are actually a 74. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
You know the
And that's it.
The A304 does the same job as a 74LS 245, just with a different pin out. You can't exchange them, but
Adrian Black made a little adapter. You can make a little adapter out of a couple of sockets.
Yeah, it looks ugly, but
yes, you end up with like 3 chips high.
Yeah.
But if it works.
Surely you could get like an SMT 74LS245 and put it on a PCB that's designed to sit in the 300mm socket.
Probably, yeah, it'd fit.
Maybe. I think this is a bit more of a DIY. This is more of a DIY thing. This is an oh shit, my 8304 has died, and I have this 74 series Logic. What can I do?
Well done, Jason. Well done.
More well done to David Mudifer for putting up with me and my numerous temper tantrums across the course of 3 weeks.
Jason, with all of your spare ICs, you should build that IC tester. I saw a video on Noel's Retro Lab, I think, about it. It was a Arduino-based device, so you can plug a chip in and it'll check whether it's actually faulty or not.
You can do for 74 series Logic. Just use the TL866 Mini Pro. You can test 9/10 of them.
Oh, there you go.
Jason, you were saying the sockets in the Apple II are a little bit suspect. Are they worse than the cheap ones that Commodore tended to use?
Of course
By
not.
a mile.
Of course not.
By a mile. Put it this way: when you go to remove a socket, you don't remove the socket as opposed to more disassemble it. It's the type where the actual pins don't, like, say this is your bit of plastic, right? The pins don't come in through the top and then get soldered into the board. The whole plastic bit just kind of clips over the top of them. So you'll sit there and you'll desolder all the pins. You make sure they're loose. You go to lift it off and you just end up with this bit of plastic in your hand and all the pins still sitting on the board.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, look, but to be fair, look, you could never tell what Commodore was going to do. You could get a board and it has no sockets, and then you get a board and it's got 50% sockets, and then you get a board that's 80% sockets, and then you get a board that's got no sockets. So I think
I'd like to point out Atari 8-bits are actually exactly the same.
Sorry?
That's probably due to the QC department in that they build the 64, they build them with all the parts soldered in, and then they ship them, the ones that work, and then the ones that don't work, they get sent to another department where
to have everything ripped back off.
Basically intern uni students on minimum wage or less sit there and work out what parts are not working, and they can. Once you're pretty good at that sort of thing, because Tandy used to do it as well. Once you're pretty good at that, you can get fix most of the motherboards and get them out onto shelves, and so you find them with different sockets all over the place because the people that are changing the part don't trust it, so they put a socket in, then the part.
Just look at the chip count on this bastard.
It's got a lot of chips.
Well,
compared to a TRS-80 Model 1.
That's a Model 1, so I mean, it's still a pretty big chip count. Yeah.
Here we go.
There we go.
Chipgate.
guys,
look
you
at
all
the
have
size
a lot
of
chips
my
on your board.
PCB.
All right. Well, I guess I should probably say what I've been doing, and the answer is not a whole lot. I bought a heap of IBM JX stuff, and
I'm shocked.
I'll show you how much I bought. Hang on.
You need a wheelbarrow.
So,
Trolley.
So the hardest. This is only half of the stack. I'll just grab the other half. All right. So when this stuff comes up, you got to take advantage of it. So here's some of the premium titles that you guys might be interested in, like IBM Mainframe Communication Assistant. Very useful in this day and age. You might want a copy, or Word Knowledge Skills. But the moral of the story is you won't get this stuff. So I've already archived all the software, and it's already on my IBM JX page.
What year's the IBM mainframe book?
1985, August 1985. But I'm halfway through scanning this book, but I've got to scan all these documents, but none of them are particularly thin. So
it's gonna be fun to scan them then, isn't it?
It's not exactly interesting material. Oh, AS400. I've got one of those. I'll just put this down here. The other thing, and I was talking to the people earlier, and a few guys might remember when we talked a lot about balls. Do you remember this conversation, guys, about balls, Ian or Alan? We talked about 25 mil balls that go into apple mice.
Yeah, mouse
anyway,
balls.
I finally found a solution. You can see I've got 3 in my hands. These are available online in Australia, and they work in your Mac Plus mice. So should you get a mouse that doesn't have a ball, you can just fit these in and they work fine.
Ian, the Coco mouse would use the same one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they're really terrible.
It does use a metal bearing, but I don't know if it's a 25 mil or anything, because it's such an early mouse.
Yeah, the catch with the
go on, Anthony.
The catch with the Mac is it's exactly 1 inch. It's a 1 inch ball, and no other mouse that I've been able to find has a 1 inch ball. They're much smaller than that.
Well, the original Coco mouse, the black one, is actually, it's so early designed that it didn't realize people would need to open them to clean the rolly thing. So you actually have to, there's not a trap door to open and easily get to it. You've got to take 2 Phillips head screws out and to get inside it. But at nowhere in the documentation is it actually mentioned opening and cleaning the dust and accumulated crud that goes on the rollers.
In the 80s, things were a lot cleaner. We never had the dirt and the dust that we have today. So
I think I've got a 1 inch ball here, a metal one.
yeah, perfect. So you can fit that in your Mac Plus and post me your rubberized ball from your Mac Plus mouse.
And it's from this Russian mouse that I got.
Perfect.
That looks more like a rat than a mouse.
So there's the ball.
In Russia, our balls of steel.
Alan, how big was the mouse ball that Anthony sent you? The one that he gifted you?
Well, it's like that photo, or that link that Stuart put up. That's exactly what my mouse looked like, but it was jammed between the core board and the main board.
It's a bit of a personal question, isn't it?
The one that I put up, one of the guys at work, there was some problem with the computer, and this was a really old computer anyway, and we just had it connected up to some equipment we've got at work. And he had some problem with the serial port, so he opened it up, and he's like, he just sees this dead mouse in there. And I'm like, it didn't smell or anything. So it got in there, and it died, decomposed, and like, you know, it would have taken, I don't know, you'd think it would take at least a year or so to get to that stage. But so that was quite amusing.
Dan, you're right. I can't get to my ball.
Oh, wow.
Am I right or am I right?
The only other thing that I have got, but I still haven't played with, is I bought this game, Nox Archaist, for the Apple II. So for those who know, it's a Ultima style game that comes complete with maps and trinkets and and toys and USB sticks and brand new 5 1/4 inch discs and USB.
I'd love to know where those 5 1/4 inch discs are being sourced from.
Yeah,
Last I heard, like the last place that made them stopped coding them.
But the thing I like about it is it comes somewhere, and I'm not sure where it is in
So
there.
I've got to order Petsky robots. So if you could get him to order it.
Yeah, I've got that in the other room. I brought in my 4040 drive, and then it decided that it's not going to run. And so I have left it on the shelf. So I've got Petsky robots in the next room, but yeah, I haven't played it yet. But the cool thing is it comes with that Super Nintendo joystick adapter. So you have to get out your Super Nintendo controller. So keep that in mind, or buy a aftermarket one for $20, and you'd be good to go.
Oh, you're talking about the Commodore version of it.
Yes, I'm talking about the Commodore PET version.
Yeah. No, I've been meaning to buy the Apple II version. It looked kind of cool.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. Petsky is best on the original.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, cool.
But for those of us with pets, the rest of us.
I got to go soon. I got to go soon. But is there any color computer fans here, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this might interest you. I got it from. I'll tell you the story about it in a moment. It says on a Radio Shack TRS-80 Deluxe 64K color computer, and people say,
"Yeah,
what is that?" So before the when the Coco 2 came out, in the manual, there is a couple of references saying, if you've got a deluxe color computer, you've got F1 and F2 keys and lowercase characters and stuff like this. And people were like, where's the computer? Because Tandy didn't release the computer. And it was really a project by them, but it couldn't meet the... what's it called?
FCC.
No, they easily beat the FCC. What stops Tandy releasing computers is if the profit margin's not good enough. And so they built about a half a dozen of these things, got it through the FCC and everything, and got it actually added to the manual, but never released the computer. And so the computer, there is, I think, 2 or 3 of them out there. So I got this nameplate here. At the time that they were doing the prototypes, one of the engineers who did a lot of stuff for the Model 4 and machines that I'm interested in was also a prolific Radio Shack dumpster diver. So they'd send stuff to the dumpster, and then on his way out home each day, he'd just sort of go in there and grab bags of stuff. So he grabbed a bag of...
Sounds like your dream job, Ian.
I know. Tell me about it. I'm still trying to invent a time machine so that I can do that. But he had a bag of like 50 of these, and they're those Radio Shack shiny, sticky thing, and so they all stuck to each other. Most of them were rat shit, but he sent a few of them out to those of us in the Tandy world who would appreciate them. But the deluxe color computer looked like a long white case Coco 2, what we know as a Coco 2, but with a Coco 3 keyboard and a bunch of modifications and so on. So then historically, what happened was they'd already ordered 50,000 keyboards for the deluxe Coco before the deluxe Coco project got cancelled, and then they repurposed that keyboard in the Coco 3 2 years later. So that's why the Coco 3's got a different keyboard, which are sorely needed. But yeah, so you occasionally hear about the deluxe Coco. It was like a more powerful. Well, if you know your Coco 3, it's like a Coco 3 without the gimme chip, high resolution graphic improvements that the Coco 3's known for. So yeah, so quite interesting. I have to show that off at some point.
That's a fascinating story. I had never heard of it.
Yeah, the public would never have heard of it if they hadn't inadvertently included a couple of paragraphs in the Coco 2 manual and prevented those manuals getting out with the machines. Otherwise, it would have been a completely internal Tandy product that the existence of it wouldn't have gotten outside of the towers.
So does the Coco 3 have all the features that the deluxe color computer would have had?
No. What killed the cost of what blew out the cost of the deluxe color computer was they put in a proper serial port, okay, instead of a bit banger port, and that blew out the cost. Now on the Coco 3, they still have a bit banger port for the serial port, but the VLSI for the graphics was cheaper to implement than putting in a real serial port. Plus, Tandy sells a cartridge which is a proper serial port cartridge, and if you include a real serial port in the computer, then you can't sell the cartridge for $129, and
Yeah.
they're all about the money.
Yeah. Okay. So really, they got the keyboard. They just didn't get the serial port.
Yeah, and most people who want to do serious high-speed serial
weren't doing it on a Coco.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have the full shebang with the multi-pack and the proper serial port anyway.
Cool.
Cool.
Oh, very good.
That's my history lesson for the day.
Yeah,
I'm going to
very
go because I've got work in the morning. I'm self-employed, and so.
Yes, as am I. Well, I'm not self-employed, but I have work tomorrow. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up as well before we close the proceedings?
Yeah, just a quick one for me. For any Commodore users, I found a whole stack of old manuals that I'll never ever use. Does anyone ever want the Commodore 64 Easy Mail 64 manual, Super Graphics Junior manual, the Manager manual, and War Games Pack manual? Is anyone interested in that? I can ship them. I can put them in an envelope for someone if anyone's interested.
Send them to Anthony Beggett.
Do you want them, Anthony?
He's only going to scan them.
I will confirm. I reckon I have 3 of 4 of those. The only one that I don't have is the War Games Pack.
I've got a copy of that, which is lost in manual. So
you do?
Yeah, it's
right. That's going straight to Rob.
So shoot me a DM, Rob. I'll shoot it through to you.
Actually, send them all to Rob.
Okay.
Next time I see Rob, if he says, you know what, Anthony, I really don't want this paper, he can hand them to me.
Yeah, the other 3 are of no value, but
Rob,
the
you
War Games
really
Pack.
want them. Rob, you want them.
And someone might know more than this, but I've got it's another manual. It's a software starter kit. Starts at page 5 and talks about the memory configurations and stuff for the Commodore 64. So I don't know what that is all about.
That's actually a printed document, is it?
Yeah, it's a printed document. I can scan it for you and
just take a photo of the first page and let me read it and send it to me.
I'll do it after this call.
Yeah, thanks, Henry.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and for TRS-80 enthusiasts, once a month I do an international trash talk live podcast. I have to get up very early because it's at 5 p.m. New York time, and most of the people on there are from the United States or Canada. But it's fun, and we just talk for 2 hours non-stop about handy stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of the Tandies, I don't know who ended up buying it, but someone was selling. It almost looked like a pristinely brand new. I think it was a Coco 3. I think they're only selling it for a couple of $100. I don't know whether that's actually a good or bad price, but does anyone remember that up for sale up on our boards, and actually who ended up actually picking it up?
Was that in Perth?
I honestly can't remember actually now. Yeah, but all I remember commenting thinking that looks brand like it looks like it never been touched. So anyway,
I think I bought it.
I'm shocked.
It wasn't. I was thinking of it. I thought I've got way too many computers as it is, so I didn't need another one.
To be fair, Henry, I think that's how most Cocos existed. They just were never used. So
Yeah. So
as they all are.
I picked up my Coco 3 2016. It was like a big bundle pack. It was the computer, a tape recorder, and some other stuff. That had barely been used.
Yeah,
it
it was. They did a big marketing thing every November and December of a Coco 3, which is not a bad computer, but a tape deck, some crappy joysticks, a 5-pack of tapes. I wonder how many kids sort of took the wrapping paper off it, thinking Commodore Pro Pack, Commodore Pro Pack, and then open it up. Yeah. It's a fucking Coco 3.
What's a Coco 3?
It could be worse than it could have been an Aquarius.
Aquarius was long dead by then. Thankfully.
Yeah, that's true.
It was out of its mercy.
Actually, Anthony, you can confirm that. What's the Commodore Pro Pack? Was that with a disk drive or with a tape deck?
Tape deck.
Yeah.
The pack did not come with a 1541.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the manufacturers must have decided around Christmas time it was time to bundle all the crap that couldn't sell, like the 1530 tape decks and international soccer cartridges into
International soccer, Seawolf.
Le Mans Grand Prix.
Yeah, the manager, all
whatever that easy mail.
Yeah, all into one thing and just ship them on out en masse by Christmas.
Someone's been trying to sell a Pro Pack on eBay, and I'm sure we've all seen it. It's been listed at $1,200 for nearly a year now.
Tell him he's dreaming.
Yeah. I've got this box in my shed of around 40 of each of the following cartridges: Seawolf, Pinball Spectacular, and I can't remember what the third title is, but it's equally as unimpressive.
Sensible Soccer?
No, it's something terrible. It's not international soccer.
Post.
Diamonds
Blueprint.
Le Mans.
Not Le Mans.
Le Mans is actually
it's the
good.
Breakout one. It's the one that's like Breakout, but it's got a
Super Crash or
Super Smash. I think it's Super
Super
Smash. I think it's Super Smash. Yeah, Super Smash. They're all paddle games. It's like
no, Visible Solar System. That'll be it. Yeah.
That's great. I enjoy that. I put that on every night.
Someone has to find the actress that played the school teacher on that Are You Keeping Up with the Commodore ad with the solar system. Get her to actually sign those cards. we can raffle it off or auction them off. People will buy them. I swear. Just have to find that lady.
5 cents to 15 cents.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think it'll increase the price. I reckon I could sign it, and then this was the lady that was on the ad on the TV. Who?
That's got as much value as me for speaking.
Maybe speaking. Yeah, very good.
I wonder if that guy that jumps in the pool or sitting by the pool is still alive. He was in the
SX64 guy.
Yeah, he was probably in his 40s or 50s.
The guy wearing his shorts and his opened up shirt. His executive computer. Yeah.
Commodore believed in diversity in those days during those videos, weren't they?
Yeah. I don't understand that. He's like the least most executive person that would use a computer.
It's the 80s. He was probably,
what everyone thought Christopher Skase was like. That's the
he was taking illicit substances.
Does everybody know the guy we're talking about?
The SX64 was for the secretary.
Yeah, not this guy. This guy, I don't think he actually, could read.
Didn't Perifractic actually do a send-up of it? He had his wife jumping in the pool in the background or something?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to have a look at that.
So,
very good. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you in probably a month. So,
Hey, Rob, drop me a PM and with your address, and I'll send you through this information, and I'll scan. I'll take a photo of the first page for you, Anthony. Shoot it over.
Cool. Awesome.
I'd like to say we will have had another Melbourne swap meet get together by then, but don't.
It's not going to happen.
Speaking of the Canberra,
I believe when it happens.
Speaking of, in theory, the Canberra Retro Fair will be on the 19th of September. That's the date they've penciled in.
Okay, good.
Many of us can't leave the state.
I wish you all the success with that.
Hope it goes well.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. We'll see.
Good luck, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Ciao.